Bonsoir et bonne année 2013.
Good evening and a Happy New Year for 2013. Tonight sees the first launch of the year from the Guyana Space Center on an Ariane 5, bringing to 68 the total number of Ariane 5 launches. Our two clients are, as always, of particular importance to us at Arianespace. For Hispasat, we're launching Amazonas 3, which is the seventh satellite Arianespace will have launched for Spain. Our second customer is a newcomer. The Azerbaijan operator Azercosmos is launching its very first satellite and, like other operators, has decided to entrust its maiden launch to Arianespace. So you can see we are off to a fairly early start this year, beginning in February, and we will be kept busy all year. Last year there were 10 launches from the CSG, and this year we're aiming for 11. 6 Ariane 5s, 1 Vega, and 4 Soyuz. Let us begin by watching tonight's Ariane 5 ECA launch of Amazonas 3 and Azerspace AfricaSat 1A.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to French Guiana, the home of the Ariane family, for today's launch of Arianespace flight number 212, the first Ariane 5 flight of the year, an old friend and a new friend, one satellite for Spain, the old friend is Hispasat, and a second satellite for the Republic of Azerbaijan, that nation's first. A bit of history in the making tonight. Joshua Jampel here. We're coming to you, as always, live from the Jupiter Mission Control Center. All is in order. You saw just a second ago the green status panels. We're ready to go with the first launch of the year from French Guiana, the 68th Ariane 5 since she began flying in 1996, and the 212th mission in all since the Ariane program began in 1979. A quick look at the launcher to get started. Ariane 5 stands 50 meters high. She's in two parts. They call them composites. The lower composite consisting of the main stage and the boosters. The boosters standing some 31 meters high, roughly 2/3 of the vehicle. The upper stage has a cryogenic engine like the lower stage, featuring 15 tons of propellant. Above that, the vehicle equipment bay with the onboard computers. And atop that, the fairing under which are our two passengers. We'll describe each in turn as it is functioning. But first, some of the key players who make the mission happen. This is the Arianespace Flight Directorate, top management, Jean-Yves Le Gall. With him, Patrick Loire, head of the Arianespace Kourou facilities. He's the first link with the launch base and the local contact. Edward Perez, the chief technical officer and the living technical memory of Arianespace. Should anything unexpected come up during the mission, you'll see these men on the phones to their teams here. And back in Paris, any decisions that have to be made affecting the mission will be made by them. Today's launch only one day after a successful launch of a Soyuz from the Baikonur base. We got a look at the launch vehicle a moment ago. We're going to look inside the fairing now and get a glimpse of our two passengers. The end users tonight, two telecommunications operators, Hispasat and Azercosmos. The upper passenger, Amazonas 3, the heaviest at 6.2 tons. The upper passenger will be separated first. The upper passenger is usually the heavier one. In between is something called the Silda, which is a carrying structure. We'll talk about that later on, between the two satellite separations. And in the lower berth, weighing in at 3.2 tons, Azerspace AfricaSat 1A, the lighter passenger. Amazonas arrived in Kourou January 10th, Azerspace AfricaSat 1A the day later. They both began their preparation activities in the facilities here at the space base. Continuing our presentation of the players, this is the commercial side. Arianespace offers customers a one-stop shop, a single interface. This is Frank Denou, the Arianespace project manager for Amazonas 3 with his customers. A lot of films in the broadcast tonight. Our first, a quick look at Amazonas 3, presented by Frank Denou, the project manager.
Arianespace is particularly proud tonight to launch Amazonas 3 satellite 2 years after the successful launch of Hispasat 1E in 2010. The winning partnership between Arianespace and Hispasat started more than 20 years ago in 1992 with the successful launch of Hispasat 1A on an Ariane 4 rocket. Since then and throughout all these years, Hispasat has trusted Arianespace for the launch of its satellite, and we are proud and happy at Arianespace to be part of its strategy and success story. I would like to thank Space System L'Oréal for the great job we have carried out, and Hispasat for the continued confidence they put in Arianespace and in its fleet of launchers.
A proud moment for the Republic of Azerbaijan as it gets ready to launch its very first satellite, joining an exclusive club. The whole nation is watching, including the Azercosmos people at their new control center at Baku, where it's 1 a.m. Hello to all of you. Project manager for our second passenger, Azerspace Africasat 1A, is Pierre-Yves Bertin. We should have reasonably good visibility at liftoff. And we're going to go over to Pierre-Yves Bertin, Arianespace's project manager, for our next film on our second passenger.
Azercosmos is a newcomer in the world of satellite operators. It was founded in May 2010 to provide Azerbaijan with its own national space telecommunications system. The purpose is to increase the connectivity between rural and mountainous regions of Azerbaijan. The other purpose is to provide international communications with Miasat, the Malaysian partner of Azercosmos, for tonight's launch. They will use their own control center built near Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, to monitor their spacecraft in orbit. Azerspace Africasat 1A is built by Orbital Science Corporation. Orbital is a long-standing partner of Arianespace. 4 of our spacecraft have been launched over the past 8 months, which is a remarkable achievement.
The Range Operations Manager, known locally as the DDO, he's another key player. It's his voice you're going to be hearing. He's going to call out the 7-minute mark.
De DDO, attention pour la séquence finale lanceur.
7-minute mark is the beginning of what's called the synchronized or the automatic sequence.
Stop, H0 moins 7 minutes.
So we are in this automatic sequence now. This is the final part of the final countdown. And during these 7 minutes, the launcher is becoming autonomous. Power is passing from the ground, which controls everything now, to the 2 onboard computers, which will control everything afterward. The DDO tonight, Frédéric Adragna of the Space Base here, in the role for the first time. With him, beside him, you saw Jean-Marc Durand of Arianespace, who's the mission director. What's going on during this synchronized sequence is that as we approach liftoff, hundreds and hundreds of pressures and parameters have to be checked out right now. And there are 2 computers doing the checking. One is for fluids, the other for the electrical systems in the launcher. All operations from now will be managed without external intervention, propellant filling, everything moving to automatic mode. Let's go back a bit in time and see how Ariane 5 is assembled.
Parts of Ariane 5 come from Europe by ship. They are taken to the space base, and in the launcher integration building, the vehicle is put together. The 2 solid boosters, which are made here, are brought to the building and in their turn integrated on the launcher. Then the upper stage with the vehicle equipment bay is mated atop the main stage. Ariane 5, complete but for the satellites now, is then moved to the final assembly building where they're joined. The 2 satellites arrive by air. Their preparation is carried out in parallel with the launchers in buildings dedicated to this purpose. Special teams test and monitor their vital systems in clean rooms. Then the satellites are filled with propellant. The 2 passengers can then be mated atop the launcher. Arianespace, along with customer teams, oversees satellite activities in the final assembly building. The day before launch, Ariane 5 is rolled out on the rail track to her position on the launch pad, ready for her mission.
And that mission beginning in less than 5 minutes. The first Ariane 5 of the year and the first from French Guiana. Other dramatis personae here in Jupiter, the satellite managers here on the Amazonas side. This is Antonio Abad. We'll be hearing from him later on. They give the okay for each stage of the satellite's preparation. We're in the middle of the synchronized sequence, and the professionals here always say these final 7 minutes are the most intense moments of the entire launch campaign, and you can almost feel it. Many operations are critical. The final check of the opening of the engine valves or arming of the pyrotechnic lines that will separate the stages. There is a certain tension, which is normal. Everyone here very focused, very concentrated, all around, tonight representing, of course, years of work for many. 1,001 things to check and another 1,001 to verify and monitor. A launch readiness review meeting, which took place Tuesday, authorized the countdown today, also authorized a rollout to the launch pad yesterday. Satellite mission directors for the Azerspace Africa Sat 1A, Wesley Wong, we'll be hearing from him a little later on. The CSG here, the world's only dedicated commercial space base, Arianespace operating and marketing the launcher family, Ariane, Soyuz, and Vega. European Space Agency funding and developing launcher programs, the French National Space Agency CNES coordinating all operations. It's a big base, and we want to show you some of the other key players who are working tonight. Another place that's very busy is the launch zone, as you can imagine, where the launch management teams are working under the direction of the launch operations manager. He and his people are at this moment going over the final checks and verifications on all parts of Ariane's launch system. In all, about 200 people up there. They're much closer to the pad than we are here in Jupiter. Here we're about 13, 14 kilometers. They're 1 kilometer away. They're working inside a bunker, a blockhouse, with walls that are 1 meter thick. Once the vehicle has left the pad, their job is done. Other teams take over tracking the vehicle. The weather is crucial because we can't control it, but the weather seems to be on our side tonight. All is going according to plan, and we know that because of the status panels, the green status panels on the upper left. These are the real-time summary of the different services provided by the base. There they are again. We check them from time to time before liftoff. What they are is they're a go, no-go, green, red resume of everything it takes to launch. Green meaning okay, red meaning the opposite. It's very simple. We get a red anywhere. It means somebody, someplace has found something not quite right, and we stop the countdown. But for the moment, at -2 minutes, all is well. This is a split-screen shot. One of the last things you're going to see, we just want to linger on a moment. Liquid hydrogen on the left, liquid oxygen on the right. These are the propellant feeder arms going into the upper stage. You get a better shot of them when the camera pulls back. These arms are part of the ground equipment and part of the launch table. They're right behind the launcher. You can see the yellow bar there on the left. You get an even better shot in just a moment. The upper stage needs to be filled up to the last minute. Why? Because it's cold propellant evaporates in this heat. And when I say cold, liquid oxygen minus 180 degrees, liquid hydrogen minus 250. Those yellow arms in the middle of your screen, those are the propellant feeder arms. The fuel boils off and needs constant topping up.
À tous de DDO, attention pour -1 minute.
The DDO is going to call out the 1 minute mark, and we'll be into the final 60 seconds before liftoff.
Top, H0 -1 minute.
Well, all that's left to explain is the ignition sequence. Remember we said how power was passing from the ground to the launcher to make her autonomous? Well, this phase, the ignition phase, is already carried out by the onboard computer. Here's what to watch for. It begins when those cryogenic arms, the yellow bars, will pull back at -5 seconds when the DDO says 5. At 0, he will call out allumage, which is ignition, and the main engine will light, but we don't lift off quite yet. Count to 7. For 7 seconds, the computers are checking the performance in the main engine while it's burning on the pad. They'll do it twice to confirm it, and then give the order, if all is okay, for ignition of the boosters. Final countdown.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité, top, allumage Vulcain. Allumage EAP, décollage.
Wow, beautiful pictures again of Ariane coming roaring off the pad, leaving a trail of gold. I think we've lost her in the clouds. There she is. Did you see the cryo arms open at -5? Did you count to 7?
Tous les paramètres sont nominaux.
Everything is on board is okay, says the DDO. At 18:36 local time and right on time, Ariane began her mission, lifting off from the ground here in French Guiana, beginning her first mission of the year, rising into the clear skies over French Guiana, weighing 775 tons right now. She's burning 5 tons of fuel per second, if you can believe that, 2.5 tons in each booster, and the core stage burning an additional 300 kilograms of fuel per second. She is following the program in the onboard computer, which is located in the vehicle equipment bay below the satellites, which gives all the orders, including stage separation. We'll soon begin to see those. We're in the first of 4 flight phases for Ariane. The first 3 are powered. The last is not. We'll describe each in turn so you can follow Ariane as she heads east across the Atlantic to separate the passengers over the east coast of Africa and over the Indian Ocean. Flight phases are right now, the main engine and the 2 boosters are burning. Boosters will burn for another 20 seconds roughly. Then the main engine will burn alone for about 9 minutes. Then the upper stage will burn alone for about 16 minutes. And the final flight phase, not powered, we'll get back to that when it happens. Basically, we're using the simple solid propulsion in the boosters to get off the ground, away from the pull of the Earth, and the more complex liquid propulsion, cryogenics, to obtain speed and performance. We're waiting for confirmation of the booster separation. You'll probably be able to see that. There it is. The DDO has just called it out. You can see the 2 boosters falling away, leaving their vapor trail. In the middle is the core stage, Ariane, continuing to burn. Nice shots.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
The boosters will fall 500 kilometers from shore in a protected area. Having done their job, we're now in the second powered flight phase, the main engine burning alone. We're coming up on separation of the fairing. Just before we do, take a look at the left-hand side of your screen, the upper left, the cursor crawling up the line. That's actually 2 lines. One is superimposed on another, the optimum trajectory and the real-time trajectory, as long as they're one and the same, we're right where we should be. Below that, 2 lines, A and V. A is our altitude. You see we're climbing. V is our speed. We need between 8 and 9 kilometers per second to inject the satellites. So watch the numbers. The DDO has just said that the fairing has been jettisoned. That's coming right on time. Exposing Amazonas 3. Now you can see the black and blue box on the right. The fairing protects the payload from shocks during Ariane's ascent through the atmosphere. Once we leave the atmosphere at about 100 kilometers up, we don't need it anymore. And we can drop the weight, which is about 500 kilos. The core stage, basically a big propellant tank with the engine. It uses cryogenic propellant. You've heard that word before. Cryogenics offer certain advantages over storable propellant, which is the other option, namely better performance. They can also be turned off and on, and its motors can be reignited and can function longer, and we can see that with the upper stage, which is reignitable on the Ariane, and with the 4th stage called the Frigate with the Soyuz. Ariane 1 to 4, the previous models, owed their success mainly to storable propellant, not cryogenics. They're fuels that are kept in ambient temperature and don't evaporate like cold cryogenic does, and you saw that before liftoff with the constant topping up we needed. Storable propellant is also cheaper, but cryogenics offer better performance. You can see Amazonas exposed to the elements. Below that is a black bell-shaped structure. That's the Silda, the carrying structure, inside of which is our second passenger. Next up, the latest in a series of profiles of space professions here at the Space Base.
My name is Guillaume Lozac, I'm 31 and I've been working for 5 years with Arianespace as a launch site engineer. I've been living in Kourou for 2 years. I started with launch campaigns prior to looking after ground facilities after gaining experience and knowledge in relation to the needs of the launcher. In terms of the development of my career, after graduating as an aeronautics engineer, I started working on aircraft engines at Airbus, then in the US, and I came back to Europe, where I worked on the development of the ATV, the resupply spacecraft of the International Space Station. This first experience in the space industry made me want to join the teams of Arianespace. My work time is split between operations in and out of the launch campaigns, while I'm in charge of making sure that the various systems and methods are consistent. With Ariane 5, we've put in place a set of methods that have been made it possible for us to deliver a first-in-class reliability, and we have applied these methods on Soyuz and Vega to achieve the same quality across our 3 launch systems. The role of an assistant at the launch center consists in making sure that facilities are available for the current campaign, and once the launcher has lifted up, our job is to prepare for the next campaign, whilst guaranteeing that all ground facilities are kept up to speed. Therefore, the ELA assistant team comprises 3 people. The assistant, who reports directly to the Range Operations Director, and 2 specialists, one in electrical systems and one in mechanical and fluid systems, and the 3 of us guarantee the availability of ground facilities throughout the various steps of the launch campaign. As a result, during the launch campaign, there is a very special phase referred to as the final countdown. This period starts at D-1 with the transfer of the launcher to its launch pad. And during this phase, we switch from our day-to-day scheduling with meetings from the launch center to an operational planning from the operations facilities, where the ground team will take turns in ensuring the coordinating function and piloting operations in real time so as to achieve an accurate H0 and liftoff in due course. What I enjoy as an operation engineer is that our job is hands-on, and as an assistant at ELA, I'm fortunate to be able to work with people from a wide variety of geographical origins and professional expertise, which is very valuable both personally and professionally.
All is well on board Ariane 5. We are going to be picked up shortly by our first downrange tracking station over the border in Brazil, a place called Natal.
Acquisition de la télémesure lanceur par la station de Natal au Brésil.
And we've just been picked up, as the DDO says. All of Ariane's trajectory has been designed to be followed from the ground, whether by land or by sea. Ariane sends data back to the ground stations, and these data tell us how the flight is progressing in real time. The launcher is sending radar and telemetry back in a network of stations. Keep constant watch on her vital systems. The antenna pick up the signal and follow her progress. Telemetry, well, what is telemetry? It's call it measuring from a distance. You see the tele, the Greek prefix tele, like in television. There are over 1,500 parameters to measure, all indicators of Ariane's health in flight. We analyze some of these data in real time. Other are examined after the flight to find out how the vehicle has performed. They've recorded her motor ignitions, motor shutdown, stage separations, all of that. So you can imagine the enormous archive this means, giving Arianespace an access to a wealth of technical information after over 200 flights of the Ariane family. Coming up on the end of the lower stage burn, there are 3 orders given by the onboard computer.
De l'étage principal cryotechnique.
There we just got confirmation by the DDO. 3 orders given by the onboard computer in about 12 seconds. Extinction of the lower
Fin de
stage.
visibilité de la station de Gallio à Kourou.
And separation of the lower stage, and then ignition of the upper stage. So we're now in the 3rd and final powered flight
Allumage de
phase.
l'étage supérieur.
Second stage is burning on a single engine, like the first stage. It carries a lot less fuel, though. 12 tons of liquid oxygen and 2.5 tons of liquid hydrogen. It'll burn in 16 minutes. The first stage carried 175 tons. We're lifting over 9.5 tons of hardware tonight with our 2 satellites. And remember, that's only possible with the heavy lift Ariane 5, the sole commercial launcher on the market capable of lifting 2 big passengers. More of the mission in a moment. But for now, the latest news from Arianespace.
La trajectoire est normale.
December 19th, Arianespace ended 2012 in style with successful launch of Ariane Flight 211, delivering Skynet 5D and MEXSAT Bicentenario. And just yesterday, in Baikonur, a Soyuz launched another 6 satellites in the global Starfleet. Arianespace went around the world at the new year, meeting the press and its industrial partners, carrying this message: 10 straight years of success in launch service and solutions. Jean-Yves Le Gall was present in French Guiana, Paris, Madrid, Berlin, and Rome. Then it was on to Brussels and the European Union to discuss development of a next-generation Ariane 6 and the Commission's 2 major programs, the Galileo Global Positioning System and the Copernicus Global Monitoring Fleet, in which Arianespace plays a key role. The year's first contracts were signed in January. Arianespace will launch Vietnam's VinRedSat-1 on Vega, first in a fleet to study the environment, and Arabsat's first 6th-generation satellite, Arabsat-6B, for the Saudi Arabian operator. The space base here is busily readying the next 2 missions. The light launcher Vega's second flight will lift Proba-V and VinRedSat-1. And Ariane's Flight 213 will send the 4th automated transfer vehicle to astronauts aboard the International Space Station. At the Pacific Telecommunications Council conference in Honolulu in January, Arianespace reaffirmed its position as a leader in the Asia-Pacific with 65% of the market. In mid-January, Jean-Yves Le Gall was part of the Euroconsult meeting on Space Perspectives 2013, where he outlined the company vision in the presence of France's research minister, Geneviève Fioraso.
With ignition of the upper stage, we're into the second half of the mission. We can begin to focus on the satellites. Amazonas first. Amazonas 3 will cover the Americas, and they're getting her into orbit for the 2014 Football World Cup and the 2016 Olympics, both from Brazil, of course. Hispasat communication satellites are located in 3 orbital positions. There's a transatlantic slot at 30 degrees west, where Hispasat 1C, DE, and SpainSat are. There's an American position at 61 degrees west, where Amazonas 1 and 2 are, and where Amazonas 3 tonight will eventually be placed. And there's an eastern position at 29 east, where X-Star is. The last Hispasat launch for Ariane, Flight 199, December 2010, was Hispasat 1E, also built, by the way, by SS Loral, who likewise built X-Star and SpainSat. More coming up after this. A look at Amazonas 3 with Antonio Abad, the Satellite Mission Director.
With a total investment of more than 200 million euros, the Amazonas 3 satellite is the largest satellite built by Hispasat up to now. The satellite reinforces the role of Hispasat as a driver for the Spanish industry. The Amazonas 3 satellite will consolidate Hispasat as the main communication bridge between Europe and the Americas, where the group obtains more than 50% of its total income. The satellite, the 10th the Hispasat group launches, will be operated by our Brazilian affiliate Hispamar in 61 degrees west. During its 15 years lifetime, the satellite will provide services in the Americas, Europe, and North of Africa. In addition to providing continuity to the services in 61 degrees west, the satellite will provide internet access, opening the door to new interactive services and reducing the digital divide in Latin America. When you are Hispasat and you want to grow from 5 to 10 satellites in the next 4 years, you need to absolutely minimize your risks. And this is the way we have managed this program. On the professional side, we have our greatest appreciation and recognition for the teams of Arianespace and Kenes and their corresponding subcontractors. We are especially amazed for the work done by the operational team in this campaign, their availability and flexibility shown. It is always with great pleasure that we come to work in Kourou. We have very good friends here, and it is always great to work in such a friendly environment.
While you were watching the film, we were picked up by our second downrange tracking station. It's in the mid-Atlantic Ascension Island, tiny island in the South Atlantic, 10 square meters belonging to the UK. Used to be a NASA station. The upper stage will burn another 11 minutes roughly. You see our speed, 774 kilometers per second. The satellites will be separated when the launcher is moving at somewhere between 8 and 9 kilometers per second, as we mentioned. That is close to the speed at which the Earth turns. 10 kilometers per second or 36,000 kilometers an hour. Once they're released by Ariane, the satellites get to that speed and to their proper altitude by firing their apogee motors. These motor firings are part of their early operations, usually occurring a few days after separation, and we'll come back to that after each satellite separation. You can find out more now about Hispasat in our next film. We'll be back with more of the mission.
The Hispasat Group reinforces its fleet with the launch and orbit placement of the Amazonas 3, the 10th satellite the company owns. It will be operated by its Brazilian affiliate Hispamar from the 61st degree west orbital position, the rights for which have been obtained from the Brazilian administration and the Brazilian National Telecommunications Agency. During its 15-year lifespan, it will provide coverage to the American continent, Europe, and North Africa. With an investment of more than 200 million euros, the Amazonas 3 strengthens the Hispasat Group in its role as driver for the Spanish aerospace industry. In the Amazonas 3 project, the group has relied on significant participation from EADS CASA, Thales Alenia Space España, RIMSA, MIR, GMV, Indra, and INSA. The Amazonas 3 satellite has been built by Space Systems Loral in its facilities in Palo Alto, California, based on an SSL 1300 platform. It has 52 transponders, 33 in Ku band and 19 in C band, as well as 9 spot beams in Ka band, making it the first satellite to operate in Ka band in Latin America.
The satellite is the biggest satellite built by Hispasat up to now, and it has a launch mass of 6.2 tons, more than 26 meters wingspan with solar panels deployed, and a body height of more than 8 meters. It has 6 antennas, 4 of them deployable for the transmit and receive of communication signals from the Earth. The satellite will generate at the end of its lifetime more than 40 kilowatts of electrical power.
The Amazonas 3, aside from providing continuity to the services currently being provided from 61 degrees west through Hispamar, will contribute to the universalization of internet access in the region, which represents an important advance in reducing the digital gap in Latin America.
The new K-band payload of the Amazonas 3 positions Hispamar as Latin American first operator that opens the door to the world interactivity services and multimedia applications via satellite. This clear backing of innovation and growth in Latin America will continue with upcoming launches of the Amazonas 4A and 4B satellites in 2014 and 2015 respectively.
The Amazonas 3 constitutes a new milestone for the company's growth trajectory and consolidates Hispasat as the main communications bridge between the European and American continents, where the group already obtains more than 49% of its total revenue. Amazonas 3.
About 5 minutes left in the upper stage burn. All is well up there, Ariane functioning perfectly. We have been picked up by our next to last tracking station on the west coast of Africa in Libreville, Gabon. We'll receive telemetry for about a quarter of an hour. The program has really evolved. Till Ariane 3, the last downrange station was in Ivory Coast. For Ariane 4, we needed a new station, set one up in Libreville in 1986. It's been run by the CNES for most of that time, under an agreement between ESA, the European Space Agency, and the government of Gabon. The agreement initially planned for a telemetry station dedicated to Ariane only, but with events, its sister stations and this station here has been extended. The station's updated to include the 2 other launchers that fly from the CSG now, Soyuz and Vega, which have somewhat different trajectories. If you just joined us, we're making history with the launch of 2 new telecom satellites on an Ariane 5, Amazonas 3 for Spain, and the first satellite for Azerbaijan, Azerspace Africasat 1A. Up next, an interview with Wesley Wong, the Satellite Mission Director for Azerspace Africasat 1A.
I'm both excited as well as a little bit nervous. In the last 2 years, there's been a lot of energy, hard work, and passion, as well as money invested by Azercosmos and the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology of the Republic of Azerbaijan. And now we're just waiting to have our hope and our dreams and our future to be lofted into the heavens. Our services will include transponder leasing as well as managed solutions for both government as well as enterprise customers to support VSAT, DTH, IP, video, as well as voice services. We already have exciting plans to launch a low Earth orbiting satellite for remote sensing as well as Earth observation, as well as exciting plans to include additional telecommunication satellites in the upcoming years. Arianespace's commitment to quality and providing a reliable launch vehicle has been paramount to starting Azercosmos' business. That, along with its customer focus, is what makes Arianespace my favorite launch service provider.
4 minutes to go on the upper stage burn. On the right, exposed to the elements Amazonas 3. In the middle, the black bell-shaped is the Silda carrying structure. Underneath, that is Azerspace Africasat 1A. Remember that Ariane's job is to bring a satellite to a transfer orbit, not a final position. They get there on their own power. This is why getting them as close as possible to their final orbit is so vital. In order that the satellite doesn't have to use up its own fuel getting to its orbital slot, Ariane is known for this precision, which saves satellites fuel, therefore gaining them valuable years on orbit. Azerspace Africasat 1A is the 24th orbital-built satellite launched by Arianespace. The Virginia company is responsible for both the satellite and the ground systems, and after the in-orbit testing, it'll hand over control to the Ministry of Communications and Information Technologies, which will operate the spacecraft from the new control center in Baku. Our last orbital launch was just last December on the 12th, and the last Ariane flight 211 with MEXSAT Bicentenario. More on orbital. Now, builders of Azerspace Africasat 1A.
Azerspace Africasat 1A, the newest star over Azerbaijan. Azerspace Africasat 1A was designed, integrated, and tested in Orbital Satellite Manufacturing Facility in Dulles, Virginia, and is the 34th GeoStar spacecraft built by Orbital for customers around the globe. The Azerspace Africasat 1A satellite carries a hybrid C and Ku band payload, will generate approximately 5 kilowatts of payload power and carry 36 active transponders. The satellite will provide communication services to Azerbaijan, Central Asia, Europe, and Africa from an orbital location at 46 degrees east longitude through an arrangement between Azercosmos and MEASAT of Malaysia. Orbital GeoStar satellites are the industry leader for small to medium-class communications missions. GeoStar satellites are the most economic and reliable solution in their class and provide a full complement of payload capabilities. GeoStar satellites feature one of the industry's shortest delivery schedules and deliver high on-orbit reliability for broadcast satellite services, fixed satellite services, broadband, and other mission-critical applications. With 31 GeoStar spacecraft delivered to many of the world's leading satellite operators, and 3 scheduled for delivery and launch in the next 2 years, orbital GeoStar satellites truly are the right-size solution for geostationary satellite communications. Orbital is proud to deliver Azerspace Africasat 1A to Azercosmos and partner with Arianespace for the launch of the 23rd GeoStar satellite aboard an Ariane rocket. Orbital. Innovation you can count on.
Coming up on extinction of the upper stage, which will end the powered flight phases and will be moving towards separation. Separation, of course, marks the end of the launch vehicle's mission for the satellites, but also the start of the satellite's own life. Satellite is basically a cylinder folded up. The cylinder is fixed on an adapter by a clamp which encircles the satellite, keeps it in place. Separation is triggered by this clamp, which is cut and loosens, which frees the satellite and releases a number of springs which push the satellite forward. You'll see that in a minute. As the satellite moves away from the composite, it activates two switches which signal separation, and it's this information that's sent to the ground. We are awaiting confirmation of the extinction of the upper stage. You'll watch the nozzle shut down. You'll hear the DDO call out that milestone. You see the nozzle shutting down. There's always a second or two delay.
Extinction de l'étage supérieur.
There we go. We've had confirmation of the upper stage cutoff. We've hit our maximum speed. You'll start seeing Ariane's velocity slow. That's the V line at the bottom on the left. We're now in the fourth and final flight phase, not powered, what we call the ballistics phase. The composite is going to be maneuvered in three different directions. One direction to separate Amazonas 3, then a second orientation and a second altitude for the Silda, and finally a third altitude and a third position for the second passenger. More in a moment, but first a look at the builders of Amazonas 3, Space Systems Loral.
SSL, the leading manufacturer of commercial satellites, designed and built Amazonas 3 for Hispasat, the foremost operator in the broadcasting and distribution of content in Spanish and Portuguese. Amazonas 3 is a multi-mission satellite that includes the first Ka-band broadband payload for Latin America. It is based on SSL's space-proven platform, which provides the power and flexibility for a broad range of applications and technology advances. SSL and Hispasat have a time-proven relationship with a history of collaboration and teamwork. This cohesive teamwork helped facilitate delivery of the satellite ahead of schedule. Thank you to Hispasat, Arianespace, and the more than 3,000 employees at SSL who made the Amazonas 3 program a success.
Less than a minute until separation of our first passenger. SS Loral, founded in 1957 as a division of Philco Corporation, later bought by Ford, became Ford Aerospace, acquired by Loral in 1990, renamed SSL. They have a new logo. You just saw it there. I don't know if you saw it on the fairing. The two contracts were signed with our passengers tonight in November 2010 for Azerspace AfricaSat 1A and in September 2011 for Amazonas 3. You've probably noticed during the film portions of the broadcast, and as a matter of fact right now, you can keep track of Ariane's trajectory in real time by watching the animation, which is in the lower left corner of your screen in the blue band. Waiting for confirmation of separation of our first passenger. That's what it looks like. We're waiting for confirmation from the DDO.
Séparation du satellite Amazonas 3.
Anyway, there's always, as we mentioned, there's always a time lapse before the telemetry gets in here for 1 or 2 seconds. But the good news is Ariane 5 successfully completing the first part of her mission. Amazonas 3 separated over the east coast of Africa, bound to join the fleet now. You saw how that's done, pushed away from the mothership by a series of springs. More in a moment, but first a look now inside Azerspace AfricaSat 1A.
Azercosmos is the premier satellite operator in both Azerbaijan and Caucasus. It was incorporated in 2010 by decree of the President Ilham Aliyev. We provide satellite-delivered communication services and highly reliable satellite platforms for broadcasting, broadband and government customers. Our resources, capabilities and dedication allow us to be well equipped and handle emerging technologies successfully. With the advanced design and switching capabilities of Azerspace 1 telecommunications satellite, millions of viewers will be able to get access to information and communication services worldwide. Our satellite plays a role as an important gateway in a joint space that connects more than 50 countries in Central Asia, Europe and Africa. We see ourselves as a reliable and responsible player in the global space market. Although our company is a nascent participant in the space industry, our resources and capabilities enable us to seize opportunities and achieve our goals. Our corporate culture and transparent business activities have produced current partnerships with the world's leading companies. Our highly qualified staff possesses an impressive set of skills, knowledge, attitudes and values that are associated with superior performers within the global space industry. This fact makes us even more creative, innovative and collaborative, which enables us to meet all of our customers' requirements, overseen by our continuous improvement within our corporate management. Azerspace 1 was manufactured by the Orbital Sciences Corporation of the United States of America on a flight-proven Star 2 platform. Azerspace 1 will be placed in its orbital slot at 46 degrees east longitude and will have a wide coverage area including Europe, Africa, Central Asia, Caucasian countries and the Middle East. Azerspace 1 is designed to provide broadcasting and telecommunications services such as VSAT and create platforms to meet government and corporate customers' demands. Azerspace 1 is expected to stay in orbit for at least 15 years. One of the strategic projects carried out by the government of Azerbaijan as part of a wider plan of economic diversification and introduction to new industry fields is the launch of a telecommunications satellite into orbit. Alongside the first telecommunications satellite, Azerspace 1 plans are already in place to launch a low Earth orbiting satellite in the near future and other telecommunications satellites in the upcoming years. Information communication technologies have been declared to be the second priority area in the national economy after the oil industry. Consequently, the share of this field in the economy is growing at an increasing rate, and satellite-based communications are coming to play an ever greater role in this respect. As such, we can confidently state that the current and forthcoming satellite projects cannot be regarded as having only political or purely commercial aspirations, but are also sustainable and viable projects aimed at the long-term economic and social development of the country.
After separation of Amazonas, you saw the people in Jupiter here very politely holding their applause until the second passenger is separated. That's become sort of a tradition here. Early orbit maneuvers for Amazonas, partial solar array deployment tomorrow, first apogee motor firing also tomorrow. Reflector deployment in 8 days, trim maneuvers from the 8th to the 10th day, and in-orbit testing beginning probably, I believe, 10 or 11 days. Coming up on separation of the Silda, you'll hear the DDO confirm that. You see it's pushed away from the mothership.
Séparation du Silda.
He has just confirmed it. Pushed away the same system for the satellites away from the mothership by a series of springs. Less than a minute on separation of our second passenger, Azerbaijan's first satellite, the 32nd first satellite launched by Arianespace, helping start up the nation's business, as it has 31 times before for new operators. You might be wondering at the name, Azerspace AfricaSat. The satellite will also cover Africa, and Miasat is developing its business with that continent. Miasat is the satellite's Malaysian operator and provided the orbital position. In exchange, Azerspace gave Miasat part of the payload, an example of cooperation excuse me, between the two organizations. A moment of high concentration for everyone here as we get closer to the release of Azerspace AfricaSat 1A and the end of the Ariane mission. We're waiting for confirmation of separation of our second passenger.
Séparation du satellite Azerspace AfricaSat 1A.
And the people from Azerbaijan in blue turquoise standing, cheering. There you have the final good news. Ariane 5 successfully releasing her second passenger, Azerspace AfricaSat 1A, right on target over the Indian Ocean. You heard the applause. Now, before we go to our launch replays, the early orbit phase for Azerspace AfricaSat 1A, the first acquisition of the signal by Perth in about 5 minutes. There will be 4 apogee motor burns on the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 7th days after launch. Solar array and deflector deployment in a week. 2 braking burns on the 9th and 11th days. The mood, as you can see, very buoyant here in Jupiter and all across the Space Center and at all the points and posts where people are working or following the launcher. And the satellite's work just beginning, or soon will be, for all the different ground stations and other centers around the world where the satellite's first maneuvers are being monitored. So from the tense minutes just moments ago, you can see the change of mood here in Jupiter. And this is echoed around the world at all the outposts and offices where people involved in the 2 satellite projects are following the happy outcome of events. We're waiting for a couple of... Here's our first launch replay. You can watch again those exciting images of Ariane's ignition and liftoff as they happened half an hour ago. That's the first of a series of replays we hope to have for you from the different observation sites on the base. There are 5 or 6 sites. Here's number 2. We're going to go to the speeches. Jean-Yves Le Gall will make the first speech. Mr. Le Gall, you have the floor.
Bien. Donc, comme vous venez de le voir, nous venons de...
Well, as you've just seen, that was the...
Now, before we go to our launch replays, the early orbit phase for Azerspace AfricaSat 1A, the first acquisition of the signal by Perth in about 5 minutes. There will be 4 apogee motor burns on the 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 7th days after launch. Solar array and deflector deployment in a week. 2 braking burns on the 9th and 11th days. The mood, as you can see, very buoyant here in Jupiter and all across the Space Center and at all the points and posts where people are working or following the launcher. And the satellite's work just beginning, or soon will be, for all the different ground stations and other centers around the world where the satellite's first maneuvers are being monitored. So from the tense minutes just moments ago, you can see the change of mood here in Jupiter. And this is echoed around the world at all the outposts and offices where people involved in the 2 satellite projects are following the happy outcome of events. We're waiting for a couple of... Here's our first launch replay. You can watch again those exciting images of Ariane's ignition and liftoff as they happened half an hour ago. That's the first of a series of replays we hope to have for you from the different observation sites on the base. There are 5 or 6 sites. Here's number 2. We're going to go to the speeches. Jean-Yves Le Gall will make the first speech. Mr. Le Gall, you have the floor.
Bien. Donc, comme vous venez de le voir, nous venons de...
Well, as you've just seen, that was the 68th successful launch of Ariane 5, putting into orbit Amazonas 3 and Azerspace AfricaSat 1A, and I'm delighted to be able to say this. First of all, because yesterday we launched a Soyuz from Baikonur, which put into orbit 6 Globalstar 2 satellites. So we are continuing in a similar vein with this evening's launch, the 54th consecutive launch of Ariane 5. A further record has been beaten with the 10.35 tons injected into geostationary transfer orbit, and this goes to show how relevant our policy is, according to which we are constantly striving to increase the capability of our launcher while maintaining its reliability. And also, this evening, we have seen that everything has gone according to plan, on time, which confirms the competence and maturity of our operational team. I'd very much like to thank our two customers, Hispasat for Amazonas 3 in Spain, and Asacosmos for Azaspace AfricaSat 1A in Azerbaijan. Amazonas 3 was manufactured by Space Systems Loral. It's the 7th to have been launched by us for Spain, for Hispasat and its subsidiary Hisdesat. This evening's success, similar to the 6 previous ones, tightens even further the links between our two companies. We had the signature in 2012 of 2 further launch contracts with Hispasat for Amazonas 4A and AG1, and these again show how strong the ties are between us. I would very much like to thank my friends Elena Pisonero, who's president of Hispasat, and I believe, according to what I've been told, that she's following us in Madrid, and Mr. Carlos Espinos, Director General, who's with us here this evening. My thanks also go to Miguel Angel Panduro, the Director General of Hisdesat, who is with us this evening, together with my friend John Celli, who's one of our faithful friends. He's the president of Space Systems Loral, and he is always here whenever we're launching a Loral-manufactured spacecraft. So many thanks. The co-passenger, Azaspace AfricaSat 1A, was manufactured by Orbital Sciences Corporation, and it's the very first spacecraft for the Asacosmos operator and for Azerbaijan, developed jointly with the operator Miasat from Malaysia, and we're particularly proud that we were selected for this premiere. This is similar to what has happened in the past with 31 other operators who chose us to launch their very first satellite. Obviously, I wish Asacosmos and Azaspace AfricaSat 1A a very long life, and I'd particularly like to thank the President Aliyev for all of his support to the program. Let me also thank my Azeri friends, Mr. Abisov, the Minister of Communications, I think, is following us from Baku, and also Mr. Rashad Nabiev, who is the chairman of Asacosmos. Many thanks to you for placing your trust in us and for being with us here this evening. And thank you for accompanying us for this premiere. My thanks also go to the French ambassador to Azerbaijan, Pascal Meunier, who's done us the honour of being with us here at the CSG this evening. Last but not least, I would like to thank all of those in Europe and in French Guiana who've developed, produced and implemented this launch vehicle. It's thanks to your commitment, your professionalism and your enthusiasm that we can continue, launch after launch, to strengthen our commercial position. And one of the most important things is that we are all working together for this. I can tell you that we signed a contract with Eutelsat. It's a pluriannual, multi-annual contract for the launch of up to 4 satellites running through to 2017. So you can see that it's one success after the next. So that's what I wanted to say at the end of this first successful launch of the year, which follows the successes of last year. And I'd now like to hand over to our customers. I believe Madame Pisonero will be speaking on behalf of Amazonas 3 from Madrid, and then we'll hear from Carlos Espinos as well. And for Azaspace AfricaSat 1A, Mr. Rashad Nabiev will have a few words to say, and then my friend Mr. Bar will speak on behalf of CNES. Thank you.
As chairperson of Hispasat, it is my pleasure to announce that the launch of our Amazonas 3 satellite was a success. The satellite is now separated from the Ariane 5 ECA launcher, and is circling our planet on its own, unguided from Earth by the engineers and technicians at the Space Systems Loral, Hispasat, and ISPAMAR. But let me congratulate and express my gratitude to all of those who contribute. I want to congratulate in the first place the launcher. The work of Arianespace in the projects of the Hispasat group has been excellent. The confidence we have in Arianespace is evident and demonstrated by the fact that this is now the 7th satellite that we'll launch with you, once again with noteworthy results. The Hispasat group is a satellite operator that offers the best service to its clients, and that would not be possible if we did not have a manufacturer such as Space Systems Loral, which made the Amazonas 3 project a reality with the highest standards of quality and trustworthiness. I would also like to thank the Spanish aerospace industry and its valuable contribution to the construction of Amazonas 3. The participation of EADS, CASA, Thales Alenia Space España, REMSA, Mayer, GMV, Indra, and INSA is a guarantee of quality. Finally, many thanks to all the professionals at the Hispasat group, at Hispasat as well as ISPAMAR, without whose work, effort, and dedication this would not have been possible. Thank you very much.
Genevieve, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is a source of pride and a satisfaction for me as CEO of Hispasat to be here today and to share with you the success of the launch of our Amazonas 3 satellite. I also congratulate the Athercosmos team and the Republic of Azerbaijan for the launch of their Atherspace AfricaSat 1A, our flight companion. As we have just seen, no incident has occurred on the VA-212 mission of the Ariane 5 ECA, and the Amazonas 3 is now in space. In the weeks to come, in-orbit tests will be performed on the satellite, as well as the maneuvers needed to place it in its definitive orbital position of 61 degrees west. From there, at 36,000 kilometers over the equator, we will continue to strengthen our leadership and the group's internationalization process, and we will reinforce our role as the operator of reference in Latin America. This new satellite, the company's 10th, reinforces the group as the main communications bridge between the European and American continents. It incorporates the advance of K-band to provide interactive services and multimedia applications via satellite to a large number of users, as well to extend access to these services to the majority of the population. The Hispasat Group is the first satellite operator to offer this possibility to Latin America. Our goal is to continue offering to our clients innovative, high-quality services adapted to their communications needs. This is a time to celebrate and to recognize the achievements of all those who have participated in this project. I would like to express my gratitude to the professionals who have participated in the development of the Amazonas 3 mission and to all those who have contributed with their effort to its success. I must start with the manufacturer, Space Systems Loral, which has made a reality of such an ambitious and complex idea as the construction of this satellite, with a high level of quality and commitment with the project. Our thanks for building the Amazonas 3, the largest satellite in the group's fleet to date. I would like to give special recognition to the Spanish aerospace industry. At the Hispasat Group, we maintain our commitment to include important companies in the sector in our projects, which generates high economic and technological returns for our country. I express my appreciation to EADS, CASA, Thales Alenia Space Spain, RINSA, Mir, GMV, Indra, and INSA for their invaluable contributions to the construction of our 10th satellite. It is a privilege to work with groundbreaking Spanish companies to foment the development of the domestic aerospace sector. Many thanks also to all the professionals who work at the Hispasat Group, at Hispasat itself, as well as Hispamar. Your work allows us to consolidate and to increase our role as a relevant company in this sector. Finally, dear Genevieve, I express my thanks to the launcher, Arianespace, for its contribution and its professionalism. You are responsible for placing the Amazonas 3 in orbit and have provided the culmination of this project. As you know, the Hispasat Group has placed its trust in you on many occasions, and I want to point out that your impeccable work is worthy of the recognition and prestige of this sector. Thank you for again making possible that another new satellite of our company is in space. We hope to continue collaborating with Arianespace in our next satellite projects with the same excellent results we have enjoyed so far. Congratulations to everyone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, probably every launch is a special occasion, but today is a very special day for us as we just launched the first ever satellite of Azerbaijan. This would have not been possible without visionary leadership and constant support of His Excellency President Ilham Aliyev, who actually set the course for the country to be an important player in technology and in innovation. His wisdom, guidance, and I should stress courage were invaluable for today's mission. Azerspace One is not an investment, just only investment for other cosmos, but it rather symbolizes advance of our nation over the last decade. It was really great to watch the bird go up, but it's even more amazing to know what it means for our country and for its ordinary citizens. I do believe that for many years it's going to be a source of pride for many generations in our country. I do believe that all 9 million kept their fingers crossed and all their prayers were with us today. Well, designing, building, launching, and finally operating the satellite is a teamwork. And on behalf of Other Cosmos, I would like to truly thank Arianespace and our friends from Orbital Science Corporation for their amazing partnership throughout these 2 years, and congratulate everyone, and especially our friends from European Space Agency and our colleagues here in Kourou for their great efforts, and congratulate them with today's successful launch. Special thanks to Miasat and Telesat for their continued support and efforts throughout these 2 years. And of course, congratulations to our co-passenger, Hispasat, and thank you very much for sharing today's amazing launch with us. The last but not the least, I would like to thank all professionals and newly trained engineers of Other Cosmos who with their efforts, dedication, and enthusiasm made this day possible. Well, now the future of Azerspace One starts, and we're looking for our satellite touching 1/3 of the world. An impressive 2 sites, one in Baku and one of the regions of Azerbaijan in Nakhchivan, are ready to take control of our satellite, which will contribute and substantially contribute to communications in Europe, Central Asia, Caucasus, and one of the fastest growing markets, Africa. With this approach, forward-looking approach, I should say, and commitment, I do believe that Other Cosmos will be an important and leading player in our immediate region, and at the same time, with our efforts and all the commitments that we have dedicated to this venture, we will be an important player in a very near future in a global phase. And why I'm pretty much sure that it will happen, because no matter what we have started over the last 10 years in our country, everything has been so far successful. And finally, I want to just stress that with this determination and commitment, and of course with the support and immediate participation of His Excellency President Ilham Aliyev, Azercosmos is going to be a source of innovation and technological excellence in our region. Finally, we are very proud to be joining the global space family, and as I can see from your faces, you're also happy to accept us to this family. Thank you very much.
Bien, mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Je suis évidemment au nom du CNES particulièrement heureux.
The CNES, I'm particularly happy to be able to conclude this series of congratulations and thanks. This is again a further success of Ariane here from the CSG. It's the first success of this year, 2013. It's the 54th consecutive success. On behalf of Ariane Space, Jean-Yves will allow us all to join in the celebrations this evening. Thank you to the customers, Hispasat, a faithful customer for 20 years now. Since 1992, we're happy to share the emotions of Azerbaijan with your very first satellite going to orbit this evening. It really is quite extraordinary for any country to be in that position. We're delighted that we here at CSG have been able to share this with you. There's a lot of emotion, and we share it with you. And I hope that the facilities we've made available here to Space System L'Oral, to the manufacturer, and to Orbital Science Corporation as well, were satisfactory over the few weeks that your team spent in preparing the launch. I would certainly like to thank all of the people working here at the CSG, people from CNES, from Ariane Space, under the aegis of ESA, of course, the European Space Agency. Many thanks also to the industrial team. Some of them are with us here this evening in this room. Thank you for your excellent work, and thank you for the availability of everybody here. That has contributed to our managing to launch on time, which is important for everybody, Ariane Space and its customers. And in 2013, we will continue apace. We've got a total of 11 launches slated for this year, after the 10 we had last year. So let's continue. And many thanks to all of the guests who've joined us, those from French Guiana, the representatives, political representatives, and all of the other guests. And there are people at our various observation sites. And obviously, we are happy to share this with the local population. So many thanks once again. Congratulations once again. And we look forward to the next launch. Thank you, Joël. Well, it's doubtless going to be in April. We'll have the next launch. It's the second launch of Vega. And then a little after that, we'll have Ariane 5 taking up into space the ATV Albert Einstein. So many thanks. I had a launch yesterday evening, one this evening, and I'm pretty sure I won't have one tomorrow. Thank you and good evening.
Well, there will be celebrations tonight across Spain and Azerbaijan, a record-making mission for Ariane with the first satellite for Azerbaijan, and a new commercial mast GTO at 10,182 kilograms, Ariane breaking her previous record set last August. And there you have it. Ariane 5 has once again delivered on her first mission of the year. 2 new satellites on their ways to join their fleets and begin service. Congratulations to all. Over these fine shots of the launch replay, we'll say goodbye. That makes 54 straight launches for Ariane 5, 44 of them double launches. The next launches, as Jean-Yves Le Gall said, in April with the second Vega mission, and then the fourth ATV cargo ship destined for the International Space Station. We'll be here. We hope you will be too. Until then, on behalf of everybody here at the spaceport, this is Joshua Jampel saying thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to being with you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Ça y est.
you.